I went to the very first World Horror Convention in Nashville, which is where I met Beth Massey, Wayne Allen Salee, Joan Vanderputten, a number of other people. And my best memory of that is sitting in the bar in a booth waiting for food with Beth, giggling over how handsome R.C. Matheson was. Seeing friends who I otherwise would not have a chance to see. Facebook is nice, email is nice, but there's nothing like, just face-to-face personal contact, because I'm a hugger. I like to hug people. So I look forward to seeing all my friends, getting away from the stress of day-to-day work and what have you. Okay. I have been. I actually won the Bram Stoker for Buffy the Willow Files Volume 2 back before Wes and I were married.
Wow.
Yeah, so unfortunately that was the year I could not attend, which is kind of interesting because Wes won the year that he could not attend.
What would you tell somebody who's nominated for the first time? Like, what advice would you give them?
I would say just kind of chill out and don't follow the hype. Don't believe it. Just wait and see what happens. Because sometimes you follow the hype and it doesn't come true, and you kind of get, hopes a little bit smushed there. Just wait and see what happens. And if it doesn't happen this year, maybe it'll happen in a future year.
What did winning the Bram Stoker mean to you, and what did it change anything?
It did not change anything for me. I still kept writing Buffy books. I still kept getting paid the same amount. But it was nice to have my work recognized, by my peers. So that was good. That was good. I don't really have a whole lot going on right now. I did write an 18,000 word story for IDW for a proposed Rocketeer anthology. And it was accepted, but the editors changed, and I have not actually had contact with the new editor. So I hope it's nice to get paid, but I would prefer not to have written that 18,000 words and never have it see the light of day. I have a series that has been going on in my mind for quite a few years, and it keeps changing. It's like it's become this mental Cthulhu monster. And I am the writer in residence in July at the Golden Apple Studio in Bangor, Maine. And 2 weeks away from the daily pressure of life, that is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on banging that thing into some semblance of an outline that I can actually turn into a novel instead of just kind of going wild, and it needs to be reined in and hard decisions made. And I'm really looking forward to it because the East Coast can be really lush, and again, I live in the desert, so that'll be good. That'll be good, and it's neat to be the writer in residence. I've never had that happen before. Because as a new writer, you need to make connections, you need to network, you need to get to know people. It's really important to do that, and the HWA really has kind of the finger on the marketplace pulse, and all the things that are going on, and it's growing every year, and it's getting better and better every year. I mean, now that when I started writing, it didn't exist, and I actually have still the first letter from Karen Lansdale, the original of it, in my files. Because Rick McCammon had proposed this idea, and I wrote Rick, and then he wrote back and said, contact Karen Lansdale. And I have his response too. So it started from nothing, and now it's a great organization. Handbooks and conventions, and when I went to my first convention in Nashville, I went to panel after panel after panel, and I just drank it in. I sat there with a legal pad, and I took stenography notes that it took me 9 months before I could get a chance to transcribe. But I wrote down everything that everyone said, because if it hadn't been for Wayne Allen Salee, I wouldn't have even known that conventions existed. I befriended him somehow through writing, through Jeanette Hopper's little newsletter market thing that she used to put out. And back then, when you got to know somebody by mail, even if you lived in the same city, first you sent each other letters back and forth, and that's how I met Wayne. And then he was the one who told me about the World Horror Convention. So these are the kind of connections that you make Wes was talking to someone who just talked to him, you know, about a project just because he sat on a panel that Wes and I were on, and he liked what he heard, and he'd heard about Wes's work. So the connections that you can make at a convention are they're just priceless. They're priceless, and what you can learn as a new writer, as opposed to what you might expect, there's priceless knowledge too. Okay, I'm rambling.
That was great. I like the stuff in there. Cool. Any last words?
No, not really. You know, I love being a writer. I love all the friends I've made. I mean, another word about conventions is that you now get to know people not just all over the country, but all over the world. Like Rocky Wood from Australia, I would have never met him had I not come to a convention. Steve Jones, just so many people. So yeah, I love being a writer.